Welcome back to the Inner Alchemist TV. Happy Friday to you all. I hope this work week found you all prosperous and healthy. I know my goals for the week and every week are always to achieve the square of life, and that's health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. So I invite you all to claim those inheritances for yourself moving forward. So in today's video, I want to have a conversation about what I'm dubbing as a pyramid scheme, and I say that loosely. I'm not implying any criminal activity. Wink, wink. I don't know. I don't think it's criminal. It might be moralistic, if anything, but I just want to kind of compare the reality TV structures with the way that pyramid schemes are designed. And I want to use Love and Marriage Huntsville as kind of like a backdrop for that information. Now, I'm not claiming this to be the gospel. I'm not saying this is absolute truth. This is based on a hunch, based on speculation. Therefore, I invite you guys all to debate the information, dispute the information, agree with, tear it down, correct the facts. If you have things to offer to the conversation, it's a completely open topic. All I ask is that we keep it about the commentary and not attack each other, whether it's me or other people in the comment section. All about the objectification of information, period. You know what I mean? So step outside yourself for a moment. So listen, let's go ahead and jump right in. If you haven't already, please like the video. For those of you who have and will, thank you so much, or thank you in advance. If you are not subscribed to the channel, which a great deal of you are not, please go ahead and subscribe. You know you over here. Viewers are definitely more important than subscribers, so I appreciate you guys watching. But we know that in the realm of social media, it's all about what it looks like, right? And the more subscribers you have, the more people are likely to consider your information valid. So if there's good information, we want people to not shun that simply because you have a low subscriber count, and then let little demon monkeys with higher subscriber counts get through just because of the numbers, right? So that's why we subscribe. It costs you nothing. Hit the button, and that's that, because you're watching anyway, right? So I'm going to use Love and Marriage Huntsville as a demonstration. I don't claim any of this information to be factual. It's just a hunch, right? So let's talk about the whole television structure, or how the TV business works. Now we have OWN. OWN is considered the network, right? Now under the network, we have the executive producer. The executive producer may or may not have their own production company. I kind of liken it to an artist that's signed to a label, but then they turn around and sign their own talent to their independent label. I think of it as something like that when an executive producer has their own production company, right? Then we have producers. So lately I've been catching up on some little snippets from OWN that have been going through the YouTube feed. You guys know how they put like the little 5-minute clips from the show. And it is so funny because I've been doing tarot readings on these people, and I just realized I never even heard these people's voices before. Never heard Stormy's voice, never heard the Fletcher's voice, never heard who else is new? I can't remember. I forgot. I'm familiar with Letitia and Marceau, Kimmy and Maurice, and I think Destiny and LeBeric were on the show the last time that I watched, which was when Melody was in the cabin in some gray sweatpants and a black little lingerie top, finding out that she was pregnant with the littlest baby. That's the last time I watched reality TV at all, to be honest with you. I think after COVID, I've never been a big TV watcher anyway, though, to be honest with you. And COVID just really tanked it for me, right? So I've been catching up though on these little clips that I've been seeing in the timeline, and I'm just so fascinated at how much the show has changed from what I originally saw, and not just in terms of like storylines, but just in terms of like graphics, the production. You know what I mean? It's a good show. It's a good quality show. And so we have to be proud of each other as black people because of that, right? This video is not to tear anybody down. Like I said, it's just to kind of explore the reality TV paradigm in general, right? And honestly, the conversation was inspired by Winter Harris and the low wages that she received working on the set of Love and Marriage DC, right? So OWN is a television network, and OWN needs to produce or have content produced for their network, so television shows on their network. So I don't know if Carlos is hired as an executive producer who works for OWN and then has his own production company as well, or if he simply is a production company that was contracted by OWN to produce television shows. Now, I'm inclined to believe the latter simply because some of his shows have also been picked up by other networks. I think he has a show called Bad and Bougie, and if I'm not mistaken, that's on the We TV network. So to me, that lets me know that his production company produces these works of art, and then they're shopped to different networks who pick them up for this or that, right? Under Kingdom Reign Productions, right? Now, within the production company, they're responsible for everything regarding the project, and OWN, I believe, gives them a flat rate for that project. So say OWN says, okay, Kingdom Reign Productions, we're going to pay you $3 million to produce a season of Love and Marriage Huntsville, and we want 10 episodes. You know what I mean? So that means that he has a $300,000 per episode budget to produce this content. Now, what OWN gets out of it is all of the money from the syndication as well as the advertising. Now, when I was trying to figure out why the reality TV show personalities were paid so little, I thought it was maybe because they get royalties on the back end. You know, like movie stars, sometimes they'll say, no, I don't want the salary, I'll take the royalties. That's like the lifelong money. But when I looked it up through IMDb, I had to subscribe to the premium IMDb because y'all got me down a rabbit hole, and I don't appreciate it at all. But my gears are turning, so I have to figure out what's going on. And I'm not even the best researcher, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm more so get intuitions and shit and downloads. I don't look shit up. But I wanted to corroborate my hunches, I'll put it that way. So I was looking for Love and Marriage Huntsville episodes to see if I should watch the show, but I don't watch TV. I don't even have cable, right? So I found out that Love and Marriage Huntsville was on Cinemax. And so that would be an example of the syndication, right? And then they get advertising money, right? So the executive producer or this production company, and mind you, on Love and Marriage Huntsville, there's several executive producers. Now, I don't know if they're executive producers from the standpoint of they work with Carlos on Kingdom Reign, and they are responsible for different aspects of the project. So you'll have an executive producer for the set, you'll have an executive producer for the lights and cameras, you'll have the executive producers for the hair and makeup or things like that, or they may even have other executive producers who are on as investors, meaning who have put money also into the project and expect some type of return. Now, from the executive producing standpoint, following the OWN model of paying the production company a flat rate to do such and such, then we have the executive producers potentially paying the producers to do such and such, right? Now, the role of the producer is to basically, I wanted to know why would a person that is an actor on the show or talent on the show or a cast member of the show, why would they get producer credits, or what would be the point in that? Is it a money thing? How does that work? So what I learned is that the producer handles things that are happening on the set. They kind of supervise the set. The executive producer would do things like maybe negotiating different contracts or talking to different investors for the different studios. And they would serve as like a business face of it, right? This is just per Google, right? The producer also, if they're an actor, they want to be producers so that they can have creative control over how they're perceived or their main character on the show. You know what I mean? So if I'm on a show and I'm a producer, then I get to determine how I'm depicted and what the storylines are on the show. I'm making the production, right? So by and large, the producers are responsible for the images that are portrayed or how the show is put together, right? Or what the overall theme of the show is. And they are responsible for securing talent as well, right? For their show, for their vision, to help execute their vision, right? Under the EP's budget is what I'm thinking, right? Now, let's talk about Love and Huntsville, Love and Marriage Huntsville, right? Now, when I was looking at the show, I show that first, Carlos has executive producer, and Melody and Martell Holt together had producer credit. Now, under this producers, they decide how they're going to be depicted on the show or what the overall storyline is, right? So I tracked down all the storylines or how all the characters are presented on the show. This is from me, the outsider. If you guys have a different perception, please share that. You know what I mean? Because I'm learning. I want to learn from you guys, and that's just the bottom line, right? Melody initially came in with Martell, and they were supposed to be the power couple. They were this attractive couple that was making power moves in Huntsville, and they had this gorgeous family with these children. Boom. Letitia, her storyline was the stay-at-home mom who was trying to reintegrate back into the workforce with somewhat of an influence from her more powerful business-minded women friends who were encouraging her to spread her wings a bit, right? Kimmy's role is the newlywed stepmom, who's an empty nester, and she's now having to take in her husband's minor child and deal with his ex-wife / baby mama, right? The men, I guess, are portrayed as businessmen. I didn't understand what their dilemmas were or their conflicts were. And I don't know if that perpetuates kind of like the stereotype of, you know, all work and no play from the woman's side, while the men play, joust around, get money, and have side women. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's perpetuating a negative stereotype, especially as it pertains to middle and upper class Black America. I'll put it that way, right? Because I feel like this show is geared towards the type of audience that would follow somebody like Oprah Winfrey, right? It is on her network, right? Now we have the show changing over time, right? So we bring in Stormy, right? Stormy's the young nouveau riche influencer who got rich off social media and building a beauty brand, right? But she's kind of insecure because she still has that poverty mentality, you know, so she's coming in with the rough edges, you know, keeping it real, keeping it hood, but flexing because I have all this money, and now I'm amongst all these millionaires who are already established in business, and I'm kind of like demanding my respect because I'm rich now, you know what I mean? So I have a seat at the table, but I don't have the mannerisms and the couth that comes with being bred and born into the table. You know what I mean? I'm just here by way of a check, right? Then we have Kiki, who is the drug addicted. I think crackhead is like a dope fiend slur, so I don't want to say crackhead, but shit. She's like the crackhead cousin, right? Starting shit, blowing in the town, you know, kicking shit up, right? And then we have Chris and Nell, who are the boomers, I guess. I don't know how old they are, but they're represented on the show as the experienced older couple, and that's their demographic. So what I'm saying is that the way that this show is lined up is that they're trying to touch as many demographics of middle of Black America as possible, meaning upper middle class America. But when you get into the actual lives of these people, there's a whole lot of shit going on, right? This is not uncommon. This happens all the time when it comes to the Black community. It's like the poor people are exploited as criminals, as baby mamas, as cheaters, as dusties, as bandits, as no good men, as build-a-bear women, as things like that, you know what I mean? Low performers, whereas the middle class is able to kind of keep that veil. And I think that this is part of the reason why classism exists, and what the reason why there's so much animosity and anger from those who are considered to be upper echelon versus those who are rough around the edges per se. Now me, I grew up in both. My mom was adopted by an affluent family, but my mom's biological family was poor, and a lot of them had mental illness and were on drugs, right? Now, my mom had me as a teen, and her affluent adopted family raised me. And I was stuck in the middle, because in my mom's affluent family who raised me, it was always like, sit up straight, walk straight, go to etiquette class, correct your grammar, you're not speaking right, do this, do that. And then when I would go to the poor hood side, it was like, you act like you white, you think you all that, you up on your high horse, we gonna steal your dogs, who you think you are? You know what I mean? So I was damned if I do and damned if I don't. I wasn't good enough to go with the high riders, and I was too good to go with the low riders. You know what I mean? That caused me a lot of pain and dissonance in my life, because I really didn't fit in anywhere. I was totally misunderstood. The bottom line is that I knew both worlds very, very well. In the middle class, they tend to control you with money, meaning that if you are willing to go in the direction that maintains the legacy of the family, which is a husband, a college degree, 2.2 kids, which is a very comfortable life and safe life, I don't disagree with it, but the investment they make in you is in you continuing along that line. Go to church, you know what I mean? And they can control you with money, meaning that you're fully supported. They may even buy you a house, secure your family with generational money if you're willing to follow that path. Now, you may be like me. I don't know. I was a bit disconnected. I was a bit rebellious, maybe even, I don't want to say egotistical, but maybe kind of like, I had the arrogance of a teenager, like where I could do it myself. I was just very independent, and I believe that I hurt people around me through that independence. Part of it was because my mom left me behind to be raised by my aunties and stuff. And so I'm like, my mom ain't here to tell me to do it, so ain't nobody, you know, I was just that type of girl. And plus I didn't resonate with the route that was planned for me. You know what I mean? So a lot of the shame and sense of failure that I had early on in life had to do with me not meeting up to the standards that was pre-planned for me by this middle class affluent family that was raising me, but I didn't share the same pathological DNA as them. You know what I mean? Pathologically, I had a family that was suffering through mental health issues, poverty, and things like that. Regardless of whether or not I was with those people all the time, because they weren't my environment, they were still a part of my generational curses. You see what I'm saying? So I was literally that situation where it's nature versus nurture, or your genetics versus your environment, things like that. You know, so either way it goes, I'm in the middle. I'm both. You know what I mean? I know that I'm here to heal the generational curses as I usher myself into my version of affluence, which to me comes from a sense of well-being, happiness, overall success, true benevolence, and helping others through honesty. Because in the middle class, there's a lot of secrets, right? They have the same pathologies as poor people, but they have it covered up, and they cover it through things like makeup, cotillions, etiquette, education, things like that, right? But life goes on. Somebody has to do the work, and that's how they pretty much do it. Everything that they do happens behind the veil, behind the closed doors. When the window shades go down, that's when the husband's beating the wife. That's when the husband's addicted to drugs. That's when the husband's having several different families all over the countries. They don't put that out though, but that's the life they live, right? So now, when I'm looking at this Huntsville situation, I'm looking at all the different storylines and characters that are on this show, and to me, they represent all different demographics of black people within a certain class, right? Now, what originally sparked me was that I was going down this rabbit hole like, well, hell, why? What's going on with Martell, right? On the one hand, everybody's like, he's dusty, he's broke, he ain't never worked. Melody footed the whole bill. She took care of him the whole time. But then I'm looking at the portrayal on the show of this successful power couple, and even looking at her narrative moving forward after the divorce, she was portraying herself as if she was a woman who was dependent on a narcissistic husband who was cheating and being abusive, and she was just, I guess, a school teacher, or they both were, and now she's broken away from her toxic marriage and she's regaining her independence and she's flourishing and she's thriving. That's completely different than the social media narrative or reality narrative. I don't know which one is the reality, which is that she was pretty much a build-a-bob, you know what I mean, and that she was supporting a no good man, an ancient man, on her back. Martell on the show, he's presenting himself as the man who, because of his childhood traumas, having a father in jail, being raised by a single mother, has a brother. Because of his pathology, he made some horrible mistakes in his marriage. Now he's going to therapy, trying to fix himself, and he's pretty much vying to win his ex-wife back, following up behind her, trying to woo her, trying to win her over through the friend groups and the network, and then she's the rejecting woman who's strong and not taking him back. These are the storylines. But then you look in the media or social media, you see that he got this trifling young baby mama who's talking her shit, they talking they shit, they doing they shit, blah blah blah. That's not portrayed on the show, you know what I mean? Again, as part of that veil, to me, that is held over middle and upper class America. Like, that's a reality that's too real for a network like OWN, and maybe better suited for a network like VH1 or Love and Hip Hop, even though they're having pretty much the same dilemmas and scenarios. The difference is in the covering, right? Now, because the Black Excellence storyline wasn't really popping, I think that's why they introduced Stormy in there, because she represents the new Gen Z, you know, where people aren't having to work 9-to-5s or build brick by brick. You know, you can just be an overnight sensation and become a millionaire. And then, like I said, along with that, because you were not born and bred into it, you don't really know how to act. So you bring all that mentality from your lack, your poverty, the hood, you bringing all that to the table with your millions, right? So there's a sense of entitlement or a demand to be noticed for your success and your accomplishments, while simultaneously noticing that you are a hood rat. You know what I mean? Essentially, while this person is also observing you middle class people as fakers because of all the shit that y'all have going on as well, right? So it's truly a backdrop for how class wars are going down in the Black community, right? However, I say that to say that as producers, Melody and Martell are designing these storylines and this perception. They're designing the way that this show goes and what's depicted. So what we see of her in the show versus the reality of social media, whether it pertains to Martell or anything else, that is all by design. That is the job of the producer to decide what this show is and how it's gonna pan out, right? Now, the pyramid works as Carlos at the top as the executive producer. He provides a budget to secure talent. Now, I believe initially it was Melody and Martell, and they secured Letitia and Marsau, they secured Kimmy and Maurice, and they secured Destiny and LeBerick. Now, from each of those contracts, they as a couple were receiving a kickback. So let's say each couple was offered $100,000 for 10 episodes. So that means they get $10,000 per episode. The producers, which would be Melody and Martell, would then negotiate a contract for them that says, hey, do you want to do this show for $7,500 an episode? And they say, yeah, I'll sign on to that. That's what they sign. However, they're still allowed to keep the kickback from the budget of $10,000, which would be $2,500, right? So that's going into the pockets of both Melody and both Martell as the couple. Now, with that extra money, I don't know if there is then a kickback to Carlos, meaning that he gets $1,000 from that as well. This is coming from the overall budget of his production company or his investors. Now, the reason why I included that piece is strictly because of the tarot, because the tarot showed embezzlement, which is the misappropriation of funds, which made me feel like, okay, well, Carlos must be getting a portion of the kickback as well. That's just a hunch, right? Now, from there, we have the Holtz, and now they're broken up, right? Now they're operating still as producers, at least as of the last season. When I looked at the credits on IMDb, they're operating as Melody Holt and Melody Cherie. Now they're both having independent but equal relationships with Carlos King, right? Now here's where shit is getting sticky, and this is my hunch. So we know that Destiny left the show, right? You guys let me know, did she leave the show around the time that Melody and Martell were divorcing? Because my thoughts are she left the show to break that contract with the Holtz regarding the kickback or the commission. Not that it was on paper for her, but she may have known through Martell, because I believe that Martell is telling his friends that he gets this kickback. And pretty much how you guys think he's unemployed or wonder what he's doing. What he's doing is he's living off of the kickbacks of the reality stars. This may not have been something that was fully disclosed initially, but as the divorce started happening, Melody became more villainized. The millimeters were taking everybody's opportunities. I feel like at some point he had to let people know, hey, this is what's going on. They're attacking me. I'm not able to make no money. I'm getting money off kickbacks, so I really need y'all to sign under me. That's how I'm thinking that it's going, right? So I think that Destiny left the show, and the reason why she's coming back in on the show is because instead of her now being signed under Melody and Martell, she's signed under strictly Martell. So he's making 100% of the kickback from her being on the show, or her role on the pyramid, right? Now, along with that, we have people like Stormy, who may or may not have been brought in by Ariane, her husband. So Martell's getting a kickback off of that. Well, I couldn't decide who the Fletchers belong to, because what I saw in the show is that Melody was maintaining a relationship with the woman Nell, and Martell was maintaining connections with the man Chris. Now I believe that Martell and Melody were at a race to the finish line to secure their contracts moving forward. Who y'all gonna sign with? Are y'all gonna sign under me so I can get the kickback, or under him? Now what I noticed with Martell is that he seems to do a lot of, I don't know if it's guilt tripping, but there was like a lot of language with him where he's like, after all I did for these people, you wouldn't even have these opportunities if it wasn't for me, etc. Which made me feel like he guilt trip people in some way or the other to keep them as supporting him or signing with him in some type of way, because they're getting kickback, and I believe that's how he's sustaining himself, and I believe that that's his form of income. Now, you guys were asking in the comment, is Melody being iced out of the show? This is what I'm thinking, right? Carlos is approving all of the people that Martell brings in, but he's not approving the people that Melody bring in. And I think this was part of it with Shanita Foster. Now, she has this doctor that she brings on this trip, and I think that was her attempt to pitch her into the show. I don't think that Carlos wrote off on that. You know what I mean? Now, whether that was because there was a fight, or there was an ambush, or Martell showed up, or things went awry, she didn't end up signing, so Melody didn't end up getting a kickback off of her. Now, I believe that all of them have iced her out from the perspective, except for Kimmy and Maurice. I feel like Melody still may be getting kickback off of them, but I think that the others are strictly letting Martell get kicks back off of them, and Carlos is approving all of the storylines and the people that are associated with Martell, and icing Melody out so that she's not making any money off of the kickbacks from the show, aka the pyramid scheme, right? Now let's talk about Kiki. Kiki is Letitia's cousin. I don't know if Letitia and them have had the opportunity to bring in talent or to make any kickbacks or commissions, but I do know that Kiki was supposedly coming in as Melody's friend, or she came in through Melody. This could mean one of two things. Melody signed Kiki and she's getting kickback off of Kiki, or Letitia was supposed to sign Kiki and get the kickback, but Melody offered the better deal or backdoored her, and Kiki ended up going with Melody, and that's why Letitia is so tight or so upset with her. You know what I mean? Because she's mad because she doesn't get any money off of Kiki's presence, yet Kiki is playing off of her relationship in the show, but Melody is pocketing the money, right? I really sincerely think that's what it is. However, I also believe that they're paid per episode. So even there's this, in hypothetical numbers, even though there's this $10,000 budget that's $100,000 budget that's carved out for the season, and let's say that's for 10 episodes, so $10,000 an episode, you only get paid if you make the cut of the episode, which is up to the editors, right? So along with Carlos and Martell having all these other people sign for her, sign under them, and then not approving Melody's suggestions for the show, they're also editing people who are signed with her out of the show so that they're not getting that per episode fee. I believe that there's part of their fee schedule where they're paid by the episode. I don't know if it's by how much time they get on the episode, how much screen time, how much they have to come to the set, if they have a storyline for the episode. I'm not sure. What I am sure of is that when Kiki was filming on the show, a lot of her scenes, Melody was in them, and I believe that she had to be in those scenes with Kiki to make sure Kiki made the editor's cut on the show, or else Kiki was not going to get paid for the episode, however many there were, and therefore Melody was not going to get the kickback. You know what I mean? So I think that's why they filmed together. Now this brings me to another random point. I know I'll be all over the place, but y'all just ride with me. Back in the day when Ayanla was doing Fix My Life, I used to be on Twitter, right? And I sent this tweet, and OWN contacted me through my DMs, and I don't know if I had to sign a form. I can't remember. This was well over 10-15 years ago, or however long ago it was. And they asked if they could use my tweet to feature on, I don't know if it was a show or a commercial, but they wanted to feature my tweet. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I can't remember if I had to sign off on that. And then, so they had like something where there was like floating different people's tweets or opinions of the show across like some commercial or something. I can't remember. Now, this dawned on me because the certain content creator here on YouTube did a goodbye speech, and they were thanking Carlos for some type of opportunity or something like that, right? Now, that person left YouTube, and then when they came back, they started dropping audio tapes of Kiki talking about this threesome story with Marsal. Now, when I saw the 5-minute little clip on OWN, there was a clip on there where Kiki had stated on the show that Marsal had an affair or a threesome, or she was trying to make that storyline happen. So I find it really rich that just prior to the season dropping, all of these recordings pop out, right? That makes me believe that someone from the network, and I don't believe it was Carlos, I believe that it's whoever stands to gain from Kiki, which according to this scenario that I have will be Melody, arranged for this person to be paid to put those tapes out publicly and then sign off for that content to be used on the show at a flat rate. I think that person incorrectly assumes that it may have come from Carlos. I don't think it came from Carlos. I think it came from a producer or a contact of the network who offered a flat rate, a middleman, a veiled person, right, who gave him a flat rate just to put it out publicly, and then also to grant permission for the content to be used, copywritten content, owned content, etc. So I think that if Kiki reappears on this season, because Kiki needs a storyline, and Melody needs Kiki to have a storyline because she's getting kickbacks off of Kiki, possibly, right? Theoretically, hypothetically, just guessing, right? And so she needs her to be working in order for that to happen, right? This might be part of that storyline, whereas now it's like, well, we got the tape of you talking, or somebody or something. It may not be Melody, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's Carlos. I think it's somebody else on the show who's arranging this as one of the storylines. And again, this is all about screen time. This is all about people being paid per episode, right? So the reason or how Melody's being kicked out is because they're not allowing her to steer the show in the realm of like black excellence, where she's bringing in her doctor friends or her accomplished people. They're trying to steer the show in the direction of more like love and hip hop, but for not the music industry, but maybe for like I said, like Stormy, young influencers, and they're trying to draw the future crowd, whereas Melody's storyline and her fan base are more of the antiquated, you know what I mean, more of the classic marriage, traditional home nuclear family type of situation, which we know is not, that's not what life is doing now. That's not what these generations are based on, and they're not trying to preserve that image at OWN or Kingdom Reign, but they're not trying to make an abrupt cut with it either. So they're leaving it lingering, but they're also phasing it out and pushing other things to the forefront, right? So that they can draw the new crowd, so that they can increase their viewership overall, right? That's the goal of the person that's producing content for them. That's what they pay them for. So like I said, they're all making money on kickbacks, and I don't know if because Carlos I don't know if because he's approving all of Martell is giving him a kickback, or he's giving Martell an opportunity or something like that. But with that embezzlement showing up and that misappropriation of funds and their relationship going on versus how things are playing out with Melody, I can almost guarantee you that's what it is. He's setting up for Martell to get kickback by approving all of his talent, and in exchange he may also be getting a kickback coming from Martell, whether that's money under the table or whatever, because it said misappropriation of funds, right? Melody being iced out of the show is just a matter of filming, or whether or not her storylines or the people that she bring in make the cut in the majority of the episodes. If they don't, she don't make that much money extra above and beyond what her salary is for being an actor on the show, whereas Martell is making the above and beyond, right? And like I said, I think he's using things like guilt trip, emotional blackmail to get people on his side of the matter. I think it's why he tries to maintain relationships as a nucleus and stays cool with everybody, and even possibly help to villainize Melody in some type of way, whether it be through the millimeters, which will mean you guys are falling right into their hands, in order to make it seem like he's downtrodden, like he's playing a classic damsel in distress, like, oh, they taking all my stuff and this is the only way I can support my 4 kids, and she got all this, she's selling leggings and candles and shit, and she got all these hostings and shit, and I'm just supposed to have nothing. Oh yeah, Martell, I get it. All I'm trying to do is be a father. I'm trying to, that's how he's playing it, and that's why I think it's going on. So listen, let me know what you guys think of this content, of this social commentary. Correct me if I'm wrong, snatch my wig if you disagree, put your perceptions and thoughts out there. I'm hopefully going to be interacting in the comments. I am working so I'm going to try my best, but I'm so interested in knowing what you guys think, because you guys put me onto a lot of things. Like you guys said that Carlos had a relationship with Mona Scott, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it, because this is definitely following the love and hip hop paradigm, where they use talent to secure other talent for a kickback. And if he was her protege, that makes perfect sense. I didn't even think of that, because honestly, you guys, I never heard of Carlos King before. I promise you. I really do. Until I joined this sector of YouTube, never heard of him. Heard of Mona Scott because I used to watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta back in the day, when Stevie J and Jocelyn were first on there. So I knew of her, but I never heard of Carlos. So you guys have pieces to the puzzle that I don't, that can make it more clear for me. I'm looking as an outsider, a viewer, researching, looking at IMDb, and coming up with conclusions. So you guys tell me if I'm on to something or not, right? Hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I need you guys to smash that like button or the dislike button. Say how you feel, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and as always, turn those notification bells on, and I'll see you guys on the next one.